Yes, good afternoon, countrymen and women. I will start by recognizing the presence of the honorable members of parliament, the Honorable Mundubile of Lunte, Honorable Stephen Kampiong of Shuangandu, Honorable Kabasoka Mpampi of Mansabombwe, Honorable Francis Kapianga of Mpika, and Honorable Emmanuel Msonda Mpankata of Posochi, Honorable Anthony Kasangwe of Bangolu, and Honorable Mulenga Kampamba of Karurushi. We are expecting more members to come in. We want to speak to the nation concerning the Constitutional Amendment Bill number 7, which is scheduled to be tabled on the floor of the House on Monday, 15 December 2025. So, members of parliament have assembled to speak to the nation because they feel strongly about this particular amendment bill, given that the bill that is coming on the floor of the House is the same bill that was invalidated by the Constitution, by the Concord. It's the same bill that was declared to be now and void. We want to bring it to the attention of the nation that the process currently being carried out at Parliament is illegal, because the bill that is being discussed or interrogated is the same bill that was declared to be now and void. The process in constitution making is as important as the content. And this is the argument that will continue to advance, because that is a correct position. A constitution is a law that is written by the people themselves. Bill 7 was not written by the Zambian people, and we want every Zambian to be very clear about this. Bill 7 was not written by the Zambian people. Bill 7 was written by President Hakainde Hichilema with his friends. The Concord judgment invalidated Bill 7, or the process leading to Bill 7, because the Zambian people who should have written this particular law did not participate. The court condemned that particular process because it originated from the executive, which is not supposed to be the case. The Concord recommended that an independent body of experts should be the one to spearhead the process of consultation. As if to fool the Zambian people, the president went ahead and appointed a technical committee, knowing very well that the process of Bill 7 had already commenced in Parliament, and Bill 7 was already before Parliament. He did not even think about withdrawing that particular bill. So that this technical committee and the process they were carrying out was an academic exercise. When they watching Pelesha, when they got to the end, they abandoned the report, abandoned the bill, and went back to the original Bill 7. Zambians must ask, what have we achieved? What have we done in compliance with what the court recommended? So what was expected was an initiation of a totally new process. Had President Hakainde Hichilema withdrawn that Bill 7 that was on the floor of the House, he would have initiated a totally new process, which process was now going to be spearheaded by a team of experts that is independent. The Zambian people themselves would have written a constitution. The team of experts was not to go with a list of clauses already drafted by government. No, no, no. The team of experts was to go to the Zambian people, speak to the Zambian people, get the views of the Zambian people about which clauses, in their view, needed amendments. So where we are dealing with a bill that was crafted by President Hakainde Hichilema with his friends. That is the reason why we have decided, on behalf of the Zambian people, as the representatives of the Zambian people, to say we will not vote for this particular bill. We will stay away from that illegal process. Otherwise, we risk being cited for contempt, because President Hakainde Hichilema and his government have decided that they can disobey or disrespect a court judgment at will and with impunity. They've demonstrated the highest levels of arrogance by disrespecting a court judgment. So what we have this afternoon, we have members of parliament, they will take turns to talk to first the process, and in any case, even the clauses contained in this illegal document called Bill 7, so that the Zambian people can see, now that the president and his team are arrogant and adamant and would like to bring this bill on the floor of the House, the members of parliament seated here and those that will come later would like to expose Bill 7 for what it is, so that even as it comes on the floor of the House, the Zambian people should know exactly what the UPND government would like to do. So without much ado, and therefore ukumitasha mwebantu bonse mwebale umfwa kuchilimba na pachitunshi n'okutila ubwafya tukwete muri kino kyalo natukwata obutungulushi bwaba Hakainde Hichilema abo bashikindike olupapulo lwa kyalo ifunde lya kyalo bale salula ifunde lya kyalo kintu kyayishibikwa okuti olupapulo lwa kyalo lukalamba olubaleti constitution lufuira okufuma ku bantu efira mu kisungu lutila we the people of Zambia nomba Bill 7 ifumi nefe kuli ba president nefe busa fyabo baikele fya kapukutu nokumfano okuti katuchite nefi pakuti fika tupususheko mu 2026 ikinatu muno okuti abekala kyalo n'abatubwelamu kanshi okuti atupusuke katulete po constitution tubike motuntu tumo utupinga tubombera nokutupususha bakutinga pusuka. So iyi constitution waletete ifune kuli mwe bantu iyo constitution ifile okufuma ku bantu nomba Bill 7 tafuma ku bantu tapali na ngumo baikala na ngwe panshi elio koti alanda pa butatutu kutila kwena wane ifimulea na Bill 7 Bill 7 mulea nayo taikwete ifunde mukati iyo mwalika lokana ipusha abantu mwaikele fya kapukutu nokumfwana nokutila katuchitefi mwalanda pama delimitation efya shala tamuli buchishinka iyo. So kanshi mwebe na Zambia iyo Bill 7 ilesa ku parliament chinto cho bayipindi balefo kubomfya ngepusukilo bapusukile mu paktu efuma mu buteko iyo na balufyanye fintu impanga yonse kubulimi kubuyantanshi na fyonse iyo CDF balelanda nabesa muno kutaka bafwe iyo ekubutukila ukufufunkanya olupapulo lwa kyalo pakuti benga pusuka leo tachabafwe iyo. So kanshi mkwai palikano kashitana alaita Honorable Kafwaya just to present his debate on Bill 7. Honorable Kafwaya.
Natokera sana mwewa kalamba kumpela kwa kashita akakuti na inena alanda poto tulikumana. Now I think it's important, by the way, let me adopt the protocol that you established, observing that if I do start going through, I may take a lot of time. I wanted to begin by saying, let me remind the countrymen and women that UPND are liars. UPND babufi. You know, we have to be clear that UPND is a group of liars. They lied that they were going to ensure that a 25 kg bag of mealie meal would cost 50 kwacha. Mealie meal is now more costly than it was, and it is 3 times more than what they promised. UPND are liars. They lied that a liter of petrol was going to cost 13 kwacha. What is the cost of the liter of petrol today? UPND are liars. They lied that the cost of a 50 kg bag of fertilizer would be 250 kwacha when they come into power. What is the cost of fertilizer today? They can't even explain it now. In the National Assembly, you'll be told something else. The one who assures you that it has come down to 750 would go and apologize and begin to explain what 750 means. UPND are liars. UPND are liars. They lied that they were going to unite this nation. Today, as Zambia, as we stand in Zambia, this country is more divided than it has ever been divided at any point of our history. The country has become so divided that even the president now believes he's hated because of where he comes from. Now, that is the lowest. The person who should be the anchor of national unity believes that the Zambian people, excuse me, the Zambian people hate him because of where he comes from. That's really deplorable. But the president has forgotten that people hate the high cost of living. People don't hate where he comes from. They don't hate him. What they hate is the high cost of living. The president has forgotten to recognize that what people hate is the crippling load shedding. It is not about him and where he comes from. The president has forgotten that people hate corruption, where ministers would be investigated at the Anti-Corruption Commission and their identities hidden 4 years after they assumed office. This is what people hate, and not where the president comes from and who he is. You see, people hate the giving away of their minerals through the giving away of Mapani and several other entities. And we hear there are further negotiations to give away further mineral wealth. This is what people hate. People hate the poor governance that has been exhibited during the UPND government. In all the three arms of government, there's been gross poor governance. Now we are dealing with the paying carrier. For the first time, people are learning new words. Paying carrier due to poor governance. This is what people hate. You see, people hate the crippling of the freedom of worship. You cannot stop a gathering at the OIDC, which was properly mobilized by Apostle Sunday Sinyangwe, and think people are going to be happy. That is at the back of stopping a prayer meeting for the late president with a bishop in his private office in Kabwe. Before that, you stopped him from meeting pastors for a prayer meeting in Indore. You also summoned a priest for delivering a homily. You don't end there. You do not end there. You jail a pastor in Kitwe for speaking for his people. You also cordon the Cathedral of the Child Jesus, preventing an archbishop from conducting prayers after you called him a Lucifer. These are the things that people hate. I want to recommend to the president to begin to see these things as the real problems in our country. Now, instead of solving these problems, where is the concentration of the UPND government? It's on this bill. Bill 7. It is called the Constitution of Zambia Amendment Bill 2025. This is where all the concentration of government is right now. And I have heard ministers, I've heard proponents of UPND, I've heard all sorts of supporters speaking about this bill. to convince the Zambian people that this is a good bill. But you see how much resources have been wasted with a technical committee whose work has counted for nothing. Because tell me, the work of the technical committee, where has it gone? Nowhere. Because we went back to the assembly to go and deal with this same original bill. Next week on Monday, this is the bill which is coming to the floor of the House on second reading. The same old bill. So that technical committee has gobbled resources which should have gone into the economy. Resources which should have gone to improving the social standing of the Zambian people. To what end? Politically. You see, we may ignore all of these small things. But this constitution, if this amendment, if it goes through, it's going to swallow all of us. It will swallow UPND, it will swallow PF, it will swallow Zambians who do not participate in politics. It is certainly just going to swallow everybody. Let me tell you, my brother, if you are aspiring to contest elections as a UPND in Monza Central, or even Choma Central, or any constituency, or Lunte, when UPND does its adoptions and they don't pick you, that is it. You will not be a Binwa Mpundu. You will not be a Chondesaka. You will have no way of contesting elections as an independent. You can't even cross to another political party. This is what UPND is doing in this particular bill. Now, is that the promotion of democracy? When you go to Article 8 of the Constitution, which talks about democracy, the development of democracy, is this bill going to enhance democracy? No, you are lying. But what about you, the PF member, who doesn't even have a party because the party has been disorganized by UPND? Where are you going to contest elections? If you are Brian Mundubile, let me tell you, when this bill goes through, you won't be able to contest elections. Even if you are a Chavinga, even if you are a given Lubinda, as long as you are a non-PF member, there's no way you will contest elections, because this bill takes away the right for you to contest elections, because you have to resign from PF 2 months before nominations. And what this bill is doing, it is even adding the number of months that you have to get paid as a member of parliament. It will add, after we adjourn, or after the parliament dissolves, you continue getting paid. So you have an incentive to stay in your job, because you'll be kept longer on the payroll, but yet you won't be able to go to another party which has proper papers, or which is not disorganized by the incompetent UPND. So this thing is aimed at destroying democracy completely, taking away democracy completely. If you, the only way this democracy will survive is by ensuring that this bill does not go through. I will speak very specifically about one object. You see, this bill, object number A, is saying revise the composition of the National Assembly to provide for the increase in the number of constituency-based seats from 156 to 211 to actualize the delimitation report by the Electoral Commission of Zambia. This is very important. Very, very important. What this bill is saying, that the UPND wants to actualize the delimitation report which has been supplied to them by the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Now, I told you that UPND are liars. Just over this simple matter, UPND has been lying. One minister appeared on a debate And he was asked, where is the delimitation report which you want to actualize by increasing the number of constituencies by 55? Where is the delimitation report? The minister said, no, we don't have the delimitation report. Go to ECZ. Go and see the ECZ chairperson. She's available for you. Now, the minister doesn't have this report, but yet this bill came from cabinet. The minister has not seen this report, but yet this bill came from cabinet. Cabinet is unaware about this delimitation report, according to that minister. But if you are the very following day, the Electoral Commission was appearing before this same select committee, which is considering the illegal bill. And they were asked by one good honorable member, when are you going to provide a list or a report which shows the constituencies that are due for delimitation? You should have seen the fidgeting from the chief executive officer. The man said, no, it is a 2019 report which was submitted to government, and we revised it, and then we submitted it. Listen to me. If you are basing on the 2019 report, we saw the 2019 report. It was brought to the government when we were in cabinet, and we know the number of constituencies which were due for delimitation. They were just 11. 11 only. Where has the 44 come from? Where? And if it is true that you revised the report, how do you revise a delimitation report without going to the ground? Who gave you the names of those constituencies? How did you draw up the maps? How did you verify those maps? What type of thinking is this? What type of government is this? Which can't, even on a simple matter, you can't be truthful. This is way over the top. UPND, you need to change. UPND, you need to transform yourselves. For me, I always recommend UPND change. This is how far you have gone into cheating. Produce the report which makes a recommendation that 55 constituencies are due for delimitation. You can't do that. Another minister, just yesterday, was answering to another one. He was asked, where is the report, delimitation report? But what did he do? This one now said, no, you have it all twisted, it's wrong. What we do is first you secure the number from the constitution. After you secure the number, then you take to ECZ and you say, now find the constituencies.
Goodness.
What type of thinking is this? What type of thinking is this? This is how much UPND is prepared to lie in order to pass an illegal bill. I want to declare that I will not participate in the deliberation of this illegal bill at any point whatsoever. I had thought about making a submission to the committee. I withdrew my submission, and I will not be in the assembly when this illegal bill will be considered, because I don't want my name to go down as one of those names which even had that contemplation that there is a process going on. This process is really bad. It reflects the standards of UPND, which have really been the lowest in this country. So I want to assure the Zambian people that I will not participate, and I will not vote for Bill 7. I will stick with the people which people I think should be managed or governed a little better than what UPND is doing right now. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Gafwaya. Just before I call upon Honorable Kampiango, I just wanted to mention something very important that Honorable Gafwaya pointed out. You see, due to poor performance by the UPND, they found themselves in a very difficult position. they've lost favor even in their strongholds. So UPND is trying to use this constitution-making process to resolve problems within the UPND. Honorable Kafuaya pointed to the issue of delimitation. So basically the UPND, as we all know, is in problems. It's in problems because internally, youths have arisen and they would like to contest for elections in the upcoming elections, replacing the older members of parliament. Now, President Hakainde Hichilema has failed to handle internal challenges within the UPND. So he wants to use the constitution, he wants to use delimitation to resolve problems within the UPND. If the delimitation process was objective, the report would have been out there. They've been challenged to produce a report so that we assess and evaluate the rationale used to come up with 55 constituencies. He's unable to do that. They are basically going to these small constituencies within their strongholds where there's infighting between the younger prospecting MPs and the older ones. So President Hakainde Hichilema, you can't use this very important process to resolve problems in your party. We urge you to resolve problems in your party, not using this particular route. These 55 constituencies, the reason why it has remained a secret, as if it's a cult document, as one senior lawyer observed, is because there's no objectivity. You've gone to the extent of ensuring that once the adoptions have been done, none of the people who've been left out can stand as independents. You are bringing it in the constitution to make it difficult. Impossible. It is so undemocratic. Zambians isuke nyamenso. Wa President Hakainde Hichilema na wakwata obwafya within his own political party. Imisepela na shima, shilefo okuiminina, shifumyepo ama MPs waba ingile kali. But President Hakainde Hichilema never feel to resolve problem within the party. Numbale foku bomfya ulupapulo lwa chalo ukuleta ma constituencies mulawa mwenye obwafya. Kelo kabiri kumwenso batino kuti balabantu balasha bakemina pa independent no kuwina. Bale foku chinga ko completely control papulo lwa chalo. It's very, very unfortunate. President Hakainde Hichilema, constitution is a very important document. All laws of the nation flow from the constitution. It's the grand norm, so we can't reduce it to a level where you begin to resolve or solve problems in your party using this very important document. So we are here to expose you. We are here to expose Bill 7 for what it is. And this is exactly what the members of parliament are doing. At this juncture, I want to invite Honorable Kampiongo to also add his thoughts to this illegal bill.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mundubile, parliamentary coordinator, for this opportunity. I recognize my colleagues who are here, those that are joining. I will slightly veer off from the bill to just remind citizens on something that we should not forget about. We shall be celebrating Christmas this year for the first time without one of our gallant sons of this country, who we lost 6 months ago, who was not only our leader in the party, but also our 60th president, Dr. Edgar Chapalo. Yes, we could have been reflecting on his life as we celebrate Christmas in a dignified way, but we can't, because as I speak, this man still remains in the morgue, freezing. His family is stuck in the Republic of South Africa, mourning away from their home country. This I can only describe as a failure of collective wisdom. And all of us must reflect on this failure of wisdom. So, as if that's not enough, his daughter, who opted to join politics, started as a councillor in one of the wards in Chawama constituency, and later became area member of parliament for the same constituency, Chawama constituency. Has had a seat declared vacant and constitutionally. And now here is where you can see the hypocrisy. If indeed this so-called Bill 7 is a genuine attempt to cut down on by-elections, one would ask whether indeed it's reasonable, sensible to have elections a few weeks before the general elections in Chawama constituency. Just because the honorable member of parliament there has been mourning her father who is yet to be buried. Ubuntu wile kwisa mnonchabo. Ubuntu nse wile kwino Christian which we are supposed to be. Wile. If we are saying let's cut down on by-elections, was that by-election in Chawama necessary? I would have liked to say more about that by-election if the matters were not in court. But where I come from, we say, Ichikwanka vachimwena kumamparanya. And so, if indeed it's a genuine desire for the nation to cut down on by-elections, this is where we're supposed to be demonstrating. My colleagues sitting with me, the three of them, actually the four of us, I know Honorable Mpakata is somewhere, and our 5 of our colleagues who are not here could have been sent away from parliament despite being voted for by our people, gone through petitions which were petitions by the UPND. Someone on one announcement wanted all of us to be kicked out of parliament, and by-elections would have been held. That's the attitude we need to deal with first and foremost before we even touch the constitution. It's the attitude of leadership. Some of the by-elections we have had have been unnecessary by-elections. We want to embrace the youths. How are we treating the youths who want to be in leadership? If one of the youths, 2 of the youths today are no longer in parliament for just expressing themselves, because youths want to express themselves. One of them, Nia Zulu, is behind the walls of prison. One of them, Mabonga, is out of those are youths that are supposed to be examples of fellow youths in parliament. So, you cannot claim to say we are curing the issue of by-elections without changing the attitudes What we are saying actually is actually entrenching by-elections. Because now you want to say, if a member elected by the people is either no more by nature, through death, or a party just differs with an honorable member, Honorable Kafai wants to speak his mind in parliament, he would be kicked out, and the party can pick anyone, whether the people like that person or not, and impose that person on the constitution. What sort of democracy is that? What sort of representative democracy are we looking at? So first of all, we are, as we end the year, we appeal to our shepherds, genuine men and women of God, not those that are speaking from the stomach, because those that are speaking from the stomach are very difficult to follow. They can even attack their fellow men of God for a piece of silver and a cup of tea at State House. They will valalusa mano vashima pepo wa mutule mona no rusa mano pantwale tontonkanisha mumala nama families vakwatande sura nshishi wa churches ngama families echingalenga kuti valatukana vashima pepo vanavo vashima pepo wechalo chacho kutira vantu awashika kumulandu wa populo usho populo ngalo straight ulo aidafe kwelo kuti walaita vantu isa mukulumba yo valatukana vanavo. This kind of moral degradation in the country must be a worry, must be a source of worry to every Zambian. Ifuleto apepela pokutila lesa, ibina chalo na chipindanenwa. Vantu techitwe mwana kwa chichalo chilinomo, umuntu walikateka wa chalo, afwa, ekwa ile kuchipatale kwa kutukirenge mbutushi, ataya kusuke, ayafwa, mwafiro kushika mpaka lelo. Mwakonka nyakuno kulamula ndapo, munshire ya fungana. Lesa ni $1,000,000. Lesa ni $1,000,000. Eko mfuma batila ichilingo lingira ko munobe na iwecho bakakulingira ko. Ndela ndechipantu ifana nipa munobe. Bana lungwa basende chisendo chamfa ya bantu babona rupwa lwa lungu na ife bonse fwe bakumene kuli balungu. Ichisendo twenda nacho chila mushiku. Pakati kwa wabike panshi. Kashinero mune chisende kwa tutubombele pamo. Mwabana mwatontonkanya kumuli tompo yenu mumito yenu. Ukutila abantu twefo bombela nabo pangana ngurupa pulo na ngukuchitefu vile mune fo kuchitefu yakuli efe mune fo apatu kuteko kulawama twalishwa authority for iwama ngaingira fe mutwe na wantu fo balanda tafi ufika limoli pandamuna umfefu abantu balanda ngamwalisambila kupali chacha chitikile pali bills 10 nili ashira bill 7 ili ngakalifikile kono. Lero uchungu mushororwa wali kwa tensha mailo na lela ndamunga ndama fundo kutira nomba twalabwelela ku bantu batutume nchitwe ube niwe kateka ube niwe MP ube niwe kansela twalabwelela nomba kubele bamaka barabele bachuliro kwa kula malaiti barabele kuchushisho kwa kula kulipira ndalama pamati mwaka nchitwa badilia kimona bashima famu bafika kuchimishi Christmas ukwa kulo kufola mataba kuma buteko ya kunu moku ero chachitika po mwaka wa kwambira poni uno bashima famu bachura infula ya shupa lesa pale infula ya lokabalima ukuti bakufole fefe bali bafya kubimu fyabo yava yakushipa nawe minista wapewa makakurosha pali kushimilimi ukalaja amabwenge pachimishimishi n'abana bobe bashimafamu balechura muri bantu bamusango shani mukayeno imwako kuti atwaisa mutipera amavoti tukomkanyepo ekwenyu yakwise so ichalo china mafia ayakala mboti fulokololeshapo twambokulayila ndafe bakupera enchito bayo fwe bashimakudatisha how abayichi balenge bandokutala abasambirira abatirolesa kwabombe bwesufu patala balina okuti twanako okubomba ubule. We have volunteered long enough to help our fellow citizens, and government don't care about us. And you can have a leader telling them that no, we didn't invite you to work, to volunteer. What sort of people are we? But yet we are very quick to give ourselves jobs. More than 100 MPs. Yes. Your children are crying. You know how it takes to, how costly it is to produce one doctor. Just one. And yet these young men and women have volunteered to help and say, when the government gives an opportunity for us to be employed, we shall wait and continue saving the lives of our fellow citizens. Today they become foolish. But we can focus on wrong priorities. On wrong things, money can be found. My colleagues have lamented on the technical committee. And I want to say this here, that those of you who may think we are just politicking about this Bill 7, its legality, we could have been telling you a different story today if indeed the president who realized that that Bill 7 was unconstitutional and he made a wise decision to appoint a technical committee to go and gather views. We could have had problems with the composition of the technical committee, but I'll tell you this, me and my colleagues seated here, we would have been telling the Zambians a different story today if indeed that report that came from the technical committee and the draft bill that we handed over to the president is what ended up at Parliament, because that would have given a semblance of legitimacy to the process. We could have been saying a different story here, and I'm speaking on behalf of my colleagues. We could have said, they've listened to us, they've listened to the people, and they've listened to the court. Let's give them a benefit of doubt and see what the draft bill which has come from the technical committee is containing. With a report from the Electoral Commission of Zambia indicating the reviewed boundaries and constituencies that were marked for delimitation, it would have been a simple and straightforward matter. You didn't even need to be calling our members in the night and meeting them in dark corners and giving them handouts. It would have been the same way we handled the 2016 constitution. And the witnesses are there. I've always spoken about Honorable Mudati. I've spoken about Honorable Mundubile. He may be a failing Minister of Agriculture, but he was one of those leaders that worked tirelessly to see the 2016 Constitution enacted. So, this desperation we are seeing must worry Zambians. We are not unreasonable. as members of parliament. We could have gone to our party and we had our position very well known insofar as this constitution making process is concerned. We could have sat with our leaders and we could have looked at matters differently. But it's not to be. Man has been spent, man has been wasted, a report generated by the technical committee, and a draft bill. Now, how can a draft bill fit into another bill? So even an attempt to try and get the technical committee to appear before the select committee at parliament has not yielded anything. How many witnesses have appeared? Which witness was sent around the country to go and... The technical committee has just been reduced to be a mere witness at a select committee. It has never happened in this nation. Never. And there's no procedure whatsoever that provides for what has happened. So Zambians must be demanding answers to find out why the money was wasted to constitute that technical committee in the first place. And what will happen to those 2 documents that were handed over to the president? These Zambians must be asking. I was cautioning my fellow honorable colleagues yesterday in Parliament. Like they say in one of the languages, Chawana Muzako Chapita, Mawa, Shipai. We who were former ministers in the cabinet of Dr. Ed Kachapanon, who stayed in office for 3 months prior to 2016 general elections, after the new constitution of 2016 was enacted, were on the belief that the constitution was correctly interpreted. Years down the line, some stakeholders in the nation, including UPND, through their Secretary General then, went to the Constitutional Court and petitioned the Constitutional Court, alleging that we who stayed in the office stayed illegally. And the Constitutional Court adjudicated on the matter and it found us wanting. We were not happy with the judgment, because at that point some of our colleagues had already left public office and had ceased to be members of parliament. And like some of us who still continued because we were re-elected. When that judgment was pronounced, we had being in office with all the authority. If we behaved like our colleagues are doing today, we could have, I can't imagine what would have happened to us after we left office. Fwebaliwa cholo wakuteko na varungu muteko. Twaitereme shitatu muteko wantu twamona kuti olupapulo efe lwatantikwe. Baisire twala omulando kuteko balolesha pamafunde balazi notubungwe tumbi okubikako na ba UPND kuti baye bapitulukemu. Ikoti lyasangire okuti afe bayekere mu muteko twali lufyenye tinachimwa tinalakwa twali mu muteko n'amakana atukwata atulafwayanga kwenda bantu balikene bayo bakateka bebere ya mukwaiteka ituli muteko bale tutusha fete tule mukule chikefi ife twakwete ntungurusha ishibe bwa amafunde fo yatantikwa abalinga bakalulula abamulandu balimba loya bayita chagalungu batile bane ikoti nga lyapingula nawo temwana ngo tawutememwe kuko nkefo koti leti ilipingulile bibile nifye ife koti landile uyu mulandu na lero bala wibukisha na munganda amafunde wali so uyu mweshi wakwile MPI isa mukwimbebere kushe mkwaya balipile ndalama nibanga pali baja basangire ku koti no mandanga na chichiringo lingira ko munobe echi bakakulingira abanyisi bale mona kwatifunde ili upingo shwe koti ubukwatila urupapulo rumwatwala ku parliament mulefo kwikatako tachirilo le hemuriyo so fino bali muteko lero kuti chamuleka kwatina changuka bantu tapale obengeka tobenga kamu mona ndo kwa muteko lero ishtai kafika wingi lero mubambimi akalimbine myaka isano ikapwa lero baisa kurulo kuti la fira mwale bombela ko fira Milan. So I continue to caution my colleagues in government today and in parliament that as long as that ruling from the court has not been vacated, it is still in force. And we must be worried about the interpretation. Because kuti mwaisa kutaura na ma constituency, fyaisa wana fight. Nomba mwingiremo want that to be the cost to the nation. I've given a classic example. If we go to Tajapimbire no kupembero kutayo face wakafume kwa PF. Yapimbire pa pente muteko kutamani rufeni. Ipire ninda. Nomba ifibane mwone kama nyesu kwa tita wakweta mchinshi wa kuteko. Limbe kuti vaya kukuntashi goro kaisa wakuntashi. But as they say, mula nita ubona. So we must be worried that incumbency can get to our heads, and that's how even dictatorship begins. So lastly, it's a matter of choice for those that want to participate in these processes. But those of us who have gone through some of these issues, they say once bitten, twice shy. Once bitten, twice shy. They do work a shepo, it will stick it up. Kaili wa mkwe, kisapona uswa chindepango. Depango mwana. So, we are going to stand with the people, and like I've always said, those of us who are respective to our shepherds of the church, we shall also respect their guidance, and that we shall do the right thing in line with what the people want. But the people of Zambia must not be so worried. Their time to speak is very near. We are just a few months away. Like where I come from, and I told Ichikwa soon of Pangama Mikwibili. And to Navapra said, for why show California. The two words of Pamma were Macari. As I say, no, we shall have a way. It was a pum. Community to work report. As only the full step was on the stone device in interpretation. The Richard of some weekend will remember what you are. We are really doing for no manage to watch in any much as some foreign photo. Umpanda Chabutukana. Apa today, people have looked like they are the weakest. but their strength is coming in August. Varanda chicharo chavos, hairi charo mukungu tachisalirwa umo. Varina vachikuru vakaunda, twareti mankangara muchifukatirwa. Mumulule sapanshi kaunda. Lero abantu vaishetera chikuru uno mukuru kuuya. So tulina vana number 7. No one number 8 Mnyakengi. So to the Zambian people, batila uchenjeshi wangu koko ungwa nesakamana. Bashima famu mweva relila uchenjeshi wangu koko kungwa tasakamana. Malepe mbero mfundo 10. Nembu tokulu ntapo. Lero unomba mfiro kufwala nenda na mpafi mwani mwemwe. It's a sad story. It's so sad. Lero lesaka palefe mukasadi ke ichimishimishi mukasadi kishefye. Panduna tuishiba muli abakali kwako. Okutila tetumuse fyo kwa bolo kutila omuntu namusungira kangwe eko mwabombera. Na bamboya besuko chipata Rwangeni Etauke, Katete. We feel you, our farmers, and all the farmers across the country. We feel for you. And we sympathize with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Kampion. Just a quick comment. I think Honorable Kampion came out very strongly on the issue of by-elections. We must be very clear that the past 4 years, we've had a number of by-elections. When you interrogate further, you discover that these by-elections were actually initiated by the UPND. The by-elections at councillor level, the by-elections at parliamentary level were actually initiated by the UPND. So the call by Honorable Kampion that instead of giving Bill 7 as an excuse to cure by-elections, the UPND should change their ways. The UPND were initiating by-elections at councillor level by enticing councillors to join the executive as teachers, nurses, and so on. And these were in cases where we have had volunteers volunteering for even over 3 years. The volunteers are not given an opportunity to get employed. Instead, they entice a councillor to create a by-election. So the Zambian people, please know this. Ama by-elections twale pitamo, by UPND, because of their recklessness, went out to create and initiate these by-elections. You find that there are volunteers everywhere in the country, in the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, and in government generally. So when there were vacancies, instead of considering volunteers, the UPND went to entice councillors to resign. So they have no moral right to actually talk about doing our by-elections. If you compare the number of by-elections that we've had in this period compared to by-elections in the same period and the results for these by-elections, you discover that there was total responsibility. The other point is on CDF. The distribution of CDF is not in the Constitution. The distribution of CDF is not in the Constitution. If at all government wanted to increase CDF allocation to constituencies that are vast, they can do that without amending the Constitution. We've got countries that came and copied CDF from us, like Kenya. They've come up with a formula on how to distribute CDF. They've come up with a formula based on demographics and other parameters. So CDF, there's nothing in the Constitution that stops government from increasing CDF based on the size of constituencies. I'll give you an example. For instance, it's 70 kilometers on one side and 100 kilometers on the other. So it would basically swallow all the constituencies in Lusaka. But the population is small. The population is small. So there's no justification to increase or indeed amend the constitution so as to provide for how this CDF will be distributed, or indeed be forced to do delimitation based on 70 kilometers by 100 to acquire 100 kilometers on one side and 70 on the other side. Kalimi in Malole has got 300 kilometers within the constituency. Fuwe, on the other hand, has maybe 3 areas, Fuwe, Mulenga, Francis, Kuriama swamps, Kuriama and Kuri mainland. So focus here CDF is not always based on the size, the geographical size of the constituency. So Mwilabe, Pokutifia, Likulisha, so no. If government was serious with development, they could have taken development even using mainstream funding from government, not only relying on CDF. So Mwikabepwa, when they're debating, CDF should not be the excuse for delimitation, because CDF can be increased. Government can still fund constituencies that are geographically big in size using other means from government, and not necessarily CDF. So Kanshi, I thought this was very, very important. And secondly, even when they argue that the constitution talks about the review of boundaries, review does not mean increase. You can review and maintain the same number. You can review and reduce the same number. So when government is reviewing these constituencies, they take into account movements of people in and out of these areas. Sometimes because of climate change and certain changes within the constituency, people would move to one side and maybe other sides are left vacant. So people should not be fooled into believing that review necessarily means increasing. So this is very, very important. We, for instance, we have certain constituencies like Momba. Momba has only got 3 wards, but it gets the same CDF as Fuwe Mulenga in Chilubi, with 22 wards.
24.
Yes. So Kasempa also gets the same CDF as Momba constituency with 3 wards. So there has to be a formula based on demographics, a formula that takes into account the size, so we can cure the challenges to do with CDF just with the formula, away from amending the constitution. So the motivation to amend the constitution using the CDF argument must collapse now. Don't allow anyone to come on the floor of the House, and so on and so forth. Look at Mandevu. Mandevu maybe has 1 million people, okay? And Mandevu as a constituency should have 200,000 voters. It still gets the same CDF as Momba with 3 wards. So what are you going to do with Mandevu? You are going to cut it into how many? Into how many constituencies? So government has to be sincere. Government has got to come out in the open and talk to the Zambian sincerity. So the challenge we have, because even the constitutional amendment clauses were generated by themselves. They were generated by themselves. They didn't listen to the people. Had they gone down to hear what the people have got to say, they were going to come up with meaningful proposed amendments, not what they're feeding us with. So please, President Hakainde Hichilema, you can't continue hiding in CDF and CDF distribution. We know that CDF is not the main source of funding to these constituencies. Because if, for instance, I was also calculated the other time, the UPND government has distributed or has approved budgets up to 900 billion in the past 4 years. But only 19 billion goes towards CDF. Why should we base constitutional amendments on 19 billion? Why should we even think about this 19 billion to be the reason why we are bringing about this delimitation? 900 billion, only 20 billion is going towards CDF. 880 billion, we don't even know where it goes. Why can't they take development to these areas using 800 billion? They're focused on the 19 billion. So that excuse must fall. I just thought, Honorable Committee, that we must bring out, the idea is to call out the UPND for what they are. They will come to the floor of the House and begin to tell the Zambian people stories about why the constitution must be amended. As Honorable Kafuaya already observed, we have colleagues in government today who are not in the habit of telling the truth. They don't like telling the truth. You listen to their ministers, come for interviews, come for debates. They just can't tell the truth. Even when we can read the judgment from the Concord that invalidated Bill 7, a minister will still want to argue to say, no, this particular bill is okay. The process was wrong, but the bill is okay. We are saying to you that that is a fruit from a poisonous tree. You can't maintain it. It has no legs to stand on. So our call to the UPND, for once, learn to start telling the truth. Zambians are simply tired of your habits of not telling the truth. Why can't you tell the truth for once? It's very, it's a source of concern, honorable members of parliament. Why can't the government officials just tell the truth? This is a bad bill. This bill was condemned by the Concord. This bill is now and void. It's a nullity. It doesn't exist at law. So even as we contribute, we want to enlighten the Zambian people to know that even as a bill is before parliament, it's actually void. It's now and void. It is a nullity. It's non-existent at law. At this point, I would like to invite the Honorable Kampampi Kawaso, Member of Parliament from Ansamomwe, to just share his thoughts about this illegal bill coming up on Monday.
Thank you very much. Let me start by acknowledging the protocols which have already been established. To start with, it's very difficult even to speak to this document in the first place because this document was called to be unconstitutional by the Constitutional Court. First and foremost, Zambians, let us look at what is happening in this country. I don't think amending the Constitution is the priority which Zambians are looking for. First of all, we want to expand the number of parliament when already we are facing so many challenges even at parliament. If you look at way back where committees used to travel year in, year out, those things are not happening because of lack of resources. Yet we want to expand the numbers of members of parliament to 211. This is uncalled for. Zambians, what are looking for now is the government which is going to fix the economy, not the government which wants to expand on the already overcrowded expenditure of government. First of all, for the government to have what prompted them to appoint that technical committee? It's straightforward. It's because of the ruling which came out of court, where the court ruled that there was no wider consultation on the process which came up with the government is not sincere with what they are doing. At the moment, to have fuel at lower prices, how are they going to afford the basic essential commodities? Not the bill which was condemned. I can urge you is that as members of the Patriotic Front, we are behind you, we are going to rally behind you, and we are not going to be part of an illegality which the Concord has already ruled. This government is one government which we thought was going to stand by the rule of law. But if you see what has been prevailing, this government has not been following the rule of law. They basically just do anything to suit themselves. Let us not make laws which will going to suit us when we are in government at that particular moment. Let us make laws which will benefit all the Zambian people. Like the fellow presenters who have spoken to this bill, they've already mentioned the bad things about this bill. And again, I'll keep on saying it will be very difficult for me even to go into details of the content of this bill, because in the first place, this bill itself, it has been ruled to be unconstitutional. So let us not dwell on the content of this bill when we have already been told to say the process which made this bill to come up is unconstitutional. So my fellow Zambians and my fellow members of parliament out there, let us stand with the people of Zambia. Let us protect Mother Zambia. We've only got one Zambia, and this is the Zambia we will live for our children. There won't be any Zambia which our children will look up to when we make we were to vote for this bill. Government have come, government have gone. Zambians, let us open our eyes and see what exactly this government is trying to do. We are basically trying to put more power in one person. How can a president, just one person, appoint more than 30 members of parliament to parliament? Who are these people going to be representing? They will basically be representing the president. They will have the interest of the president first than the Zambian people. So, to this, I think, let us not even agree and support these amendments to these bills. If this bill was straightforward and this bill was okay, why are we seeing brown envelope throwing out brown envelope moving around at Parliament Motel and the premises of Parliament itself? It's a clear message to the Zambian people to say there must be something wrong then to this to this bill, to vote for this bill, which I don't think is the right thing. And just to conclude, most of the things have already been spoken to the fellow speakers who spoke earlier than me. This bill is not good for the Zambian people. This bill, to appeal against which was passed against this bill, that tells you to say of the poverty which they are going through at this particular moment. The Zambian people want the government which will sort out the issue of load shedding. Zambian people want the government which will sort out which will lower the cost of fuel. Zambian people want the government which will lower the cost of living for the Zambian people in terms of mini-meal and other essential commodities. I thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Jan again proceed to speak to.
Thank you so much, and you were right on the protocols already established. When I came to Parliament in 2021, I sought to protect, defend, and preserve the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia. And now it is such a time that has come for me to group myself with the like-minded members of Parliament, seniors, and all those that stand on the side of the people during this period that the UPND wants to defile and rape our Republican Constitution. That must be stopped within the legal means and within everything that we can do as members of Parliament. I want to assure the Zambian people and the people of Mpika that sent me to Parliament that I'm not here to represent myself, but I'm here to represent your interests. I'm here to only support that which you also support. I'm here to only do what you, the people, deem very right. As such, I will not participate in the illegal constitution making process, which will be taking place on Monday next week. The church has spoken, the Law Association of Zambia has spoken, all the stakeholders of the Republic of Zambia have spoken. Who am I as a single member of Parliament to go and support Bill 7 and say, no, I'm supporting Bill 7 because there is the limitation. No, I'm supporting Bill 7 because Mpika will be delimited. I mean, who would risk eating a fruit just laced with poison just because it's sweet? Only a fool can do that. And only a mad person can do that. That I shall not do. I will not give a constitution, a bad constitution, to the Republic of Zambia. This constitution as it stands, this proposed bill as it stands, intends to give majority seats to a sitting president who, and if that is done, we risk this president to come back again after the 2026 general elections and demand to amend the constitution to remove the term limit. That we shall not do. There is an example in the Congo Brazzaville. President Denis Sassou Nguesso was democratically elected. And when he was democratically elected, he decided to change the constitution to have more members of parliament to his side. And when that happened, the next thing that followed, he removed the presidential term limit. He also removed the presidential age limit to make himself run for president as many times as he could. We can't do that as a country here in Zambia. The parliament exists to check the powers of the executive. And if now parliament is given to the executive, which institution will check the powers of the executive on behalf of the Zambian people? This constitution just wants, bill just wants to save the interests of the UPND government. I have sat here whilst my colleagues were speaking. I was meditating, asking God, why at this particular time have you given us such a government? We are a Christian nation, for God's sake. And tulapepa vya wino kupepa kulesa kabumba mkulu bati mwelesa mle tusungire chawe chesu. Lelo chile mweleke chankosera nengo omuntu nsokutontonkane kutinatukwata obuteko. Uwinga posa mano mukuchinja olupapulo panshite abantu balechula kumula balefa kumulando nokuchula abantu balela lensa ululwishiro lwabo abantu balela lirobo ubuteko bwa waya bula bule poso olupia mukulembululo olupapulo olushiri aje mwebe na Zambia mwebe kalacha ndetia lolekesheni pafile chita ba UPND ero ibukisheni okutira ululupapulo nga lwapitire amaka yenu neshi bachefe bantu muri ululupapulo mulina okufayo okutira ba MP nga ba expelled aba suspended nangwa chitanisai nangolesa kabumba mkulunga amusendafu ama political parties yakalesa la MP nga tomato basala batina ku MP twamulete Secretary to the cabinet, who acts as the principal advisor to the president and the government. Balefwaya ale kwata for 5 years experience at permanent secretary level. Echo abantu bale shokira bushye mumano yawo kuli umuntu obakweto kwebati akabe pali kiri ekifuno mbatakwani shefi kuli abale kushefi and tapali wa UPND na ngumo uwa yasoteri beli kusho. Bantu yonseri urupapulo rwabo rwayikala muri yinesha na secretary to the cabinet uya kalya untu akwete 10 years experience at permanent secretary level nishi balefa yokuchinja fish balefa fusuting echa abantu balekisisho kutira limbi na bakwata umuntu mumutu wo balefa utaka ipali chichifulo nomba tara kwanisha elinya bushecho tungati chinjisha hapo constitution umusango wakabacho umuntu umona alefa ya chichifulo. That is the mediocrity of the highest order, and it must not be supported by anyone who is very sane. The UPND government has gone wrong, and it's high time that we demanded to tame its wrongness. We can't continue on this trajectory. The people have spoken to say don't amend the constitution. It's not an emergency, neither is it very urgent for you to amend the constitution. They've totally refused to listen to the people. The same people who elected them. So today, if they fail to listen to the people, how will they listen tomorrow if they attempt to amend the constitution again and remove the presidential limit? Who will they listen to? They will never listen to anyone. Just like they have refused to listen now, they can, even in the future, refuse to listen and do anything they can to our constitution. I want to appeal to my fellow members of parliament. The constituents that you are holding on now is not yours. It belongs to the people. The same people who have said no to Bill 7. Who are you to stand and say, yes, I'm supporting Bill 7 because I want my constituents to be delimitated? It is not your constituents. Listen to what the people have said. The people that sent you to parliament, listen to what they have said. Bushemwe bantu nangukubulwa amani. Kuchi wayasa kwa olupapulo lwa Musango. Olupapulo olwero luperwe ku bantu abakupera ekifulo kya MP nambuwali bapata abekala kya tetukite kya Musango efe. Ninshifyeni wekashika bomi. Ba UPND muri buteko obwa bakashika bomi. Ero tamwakwata n'oluse kubalanda. Amukwata kuluse kubalanda tetimwime n'opo mwekero kumupangira abekala kyalo olupapulo lwa Musango efe. Ala n'abalwirira obuntungwa bwa kyalo kyensuko nsoko balala emibiri kyabo kirekunkuluka mu manda batakwabo obutungulushi obwa Musango efe. There's never been a time that any one of us would expect our country to go through what is going through at the hands of the UPND government. Kuri mwebaranti ba MP ndewe keshapo. Tien tukutike kufya bekala kyalo balelani. Inshita tulipoka inshita yakubola no kupepera po. Okulomba maka kulile sakabumba mukulu kwe batenga kutungulula ponsopoli. Wituntumba okuchitefya kumutu obe. Chitefyo abekala kyalo balefwaye. Pepa kulile sakabumba mukulu kutya kutungulule. Umulimo tukalabomba pamande. Umulimo ukalabombe kwa pamande. Mulimo wabekala kyalo. Umuntu uli wonso wate mwabekala kyalo. Tetaya suminisho kuti ululupapulo ulo na constitutional court yala ndokutira talwaya mbokulingana nefunde lwingapita nokuperwa kubekala kyalo unless umuntu wayitemwa sana ukuchiro kutemwa abekala kyalo inenga mwana kapyanga member of parliament uwa abekala kyalo bapere umulimo wabo member of parliament ukumufunya mu Bulanda ululupapulo nali ukana ero nshaka sangweko noko bakala bombela pali ululupapulo Fiyanala pilo kwe batinkala imini no washipa no kuchita protect and defend the constitution chile pilibula ishifire na chita participate pantu na chila chile nala pile po bali songa kulia abakesa po bakesa abula ya mapepa no kuyafukulula bakatile msheni bali basangirweko iliyo FIA ilingo vyale chitika na ile wine ya ine nala pile po bakaya isenda bakacheki ni bushena pa kupangolo papulo na lisangwa ngana sangwa tinalisangwa ko kuti bankakira po paku ya bole chirapo chandu kukana na chikonka. Amen. Mwebe kala chalo tumineni ba member of parliament wenu amafoni konsoko muri bule ni foni yambeni kutumina member of parliament wenu kutira witulekelesha we support olupapulo panturi onse member of parliament wala support olupapulo ninshaka kulensa rufu tete elio nishami posa mukanwa kankala nga chiri chakwe bati ba UPND tabakweto okufu ntungu muri olupapulo ninshi bakoselepo ninshi bominenga pamukonso wakamukolo elio chinshi tumtire nkuli bantu batire omusuwe mata oyitukira kamukulicha tumtire nkuli mwebe kala chalo mwebe na Zambia ishita ya pamande ukwamba mailolo tukaya mukusalika salikeni kulile sakabumba mkulu kabili lombe yokutira ba MP wenu abapera makana amano aya kuyachite chintu ekituntulu ne chintu chako kitachilifya chimo kukana ulupapulo lwabakashika bomi ulupapulo luko naula imitekelwe ya chalo chesu mwebekala chalo kuti mwaipusha ulupapulo lwako tefu pande fibili ichichi pande balefo kuchita amendi nechipande ko mwebekala chalo mwapelwe nsambu ishafyo mwechalo nini ubuteko kufire kule misunga nishi basalira ko fyo kule mbulula kuchipande chako bapele fifulo bashe chipande chako mipele nsambu okutira mule pokelero mfundo wa kwana okutira mule pokelero byandaishu wa kwana okutira mule pokelero amasambiro ya kwana okutira mule sange mtimufatalesha kwana chonse feta bafita balefo kuchita amendi bayamu kuchita amendi okutira bale pele fifulo babululu shabo abana babo namakadazi babo na imoko kunse mule tota ba UPND abena Zambia tebakusenteka umfweni kubena Zambia fyo balelana abena Zambia balikana olupapulo kupitira mu MPs babo balikana olupapulo kupitira muri bashima pepo wabo balikana olupapulo kupitira mu stakeholders yabo umfweni kufyo abekala chalo balelanda mwibule nifyo olupapulo munu chite withdraw from parliament pakwe bati mwinga konkanyako ukubombako fimbi ili mule chitefi fya lupapulo ifyalo ifya serious nga mwaya kukinya bale panga enyanji kufuma ku Mombasa yenyanja ikaraenda 1 hour on a stretch of 400 kilometers ili mule chitefi fya mungulu fya lupapulo ichalo cha Ethiopia na chipanga damu ya kupompa malaiti ukalapanga malaiti 6550 megawatts imwe kuti mwaya ikarafia kula pose nshitano kupia kufya lupapulo ilulu papulo lwalata mpokulisha abena Zambia finshi basekera mu abena Zambia mufifulo fye mwakwata I mean kwa lino waile kuchilimbalesa mkula ndokitira munenine nafuma kuno bali mpere chifulo chabo minister so tungirire nyo lupapulo kuchifulo chobe chabo minister finshi bali akwabekala chalo apart from iwo kulya weka nabana bo ubule no lupapulo lwabipange fyo bapere eyo bali kuperwa bakubika pachambazo bakupera kutungulushi ubule wali ubakakire munwe kumona olubango bapera lupapulo lwabipefi ala muri babiri mwe bakashika bombi ubutekeshibwa musango efi kabiri ukubula abekala cyaro kubasenda muri yinshi amasenderemo tachiweno twarakonkanya ko mailo kwambalelo mailo na pamandepe ile ndi pali abo bakabakapingira house oko tukekala tulepepa ukatilolevo tera papulo waisa sango kweba tingwe makungutu ukatilolevo tera papulo waisa sango kutule niwo chiburu pantuleza kabumba mkuru alatwa suka kuri ba munyine fwe bonse abale umfwa ndetira tumine ba member of parliament beno bebe nyukutira be supportera ulupapulo nga mwalutungirira ninshi ichalo chesu cha Zambia mwaona wala natotera mkwaya.
Thank you. One of the people give his closing remarks.
Why not kuongelesha kwenda ndesuro mwacha wangu mwana mbiko yutenda na mkwe topakana na mkwe mpanga aso ndoelela ndangu no pakulomba makaya pakulomba mkuru kutinaenga mone mbili ya pamande pali chimofrika lero na mkusondolela china mwana munena noegera pa walichoro wa uteko walelo shapa fya malaiti na mafuta baona lengoma mabumba bali bacho wa uteko leto akoteko ififi ya malaiti ya ishe shupo kumuna nduwachila na chanfu ya shukubeko kupanono kwena watu kusha wako ishishi kwenda kumuna atotea pantu ulo murumendo walelo shapa malaiti ya tila kitote ifyale pela mwencharo amalaiti pansa itatu pa 3 hours utatifuto teleko wafya mwombe umwacho andala nokutira bashimafamu bosuna abatule chine iforo twalesunga bashimafamu twashane fya kulya mu matara we left stocks of maize which was sold by Honorable Mundubile bale tinifoba ba farmer kanshi katwaliwa pa farmer bebena naba bashika abano mbana bashika bashimafamu ushikirira fi bantu efe batusha bashimafamu tapali winga sekera moyo ezo turanda pali bashimafamu sana abantu limited beshwe isala ni ndimo kwentuli wayo ero bose nangu tubole mo bene mo bakwete fitunshi bakutumuombe ko manawa dia isala kapondo so if wale ponyensala wali PND mukana kwa zamani kwa shimafamu wale ponya feel sala mcha esa kama kutukuti that's our one. The food security of this country will be compromised as we go into next year. Tuamfile baleti baramba kabiri cash for work. When you should have been increasing the number of fiscal beneficiaries so that they increase production. On one hand, Bamtoro, you are saying you are looking forward to 10 million metric tons. Where is that 10 million metric tons going to come from if you are reducing the number from the current 1 million fish beneficiaries to about 600? mulefu oku abantu bakalima lero tamule bafirisha okuti bakwate ifibombero nefe balingira okuvuka kulima. We have committed ourselves as people's representatives. One, to defend the Constitution, as we did swear in at the beginning of our tours of duty. Kanshitulaba ishtika ukutila twala kutililo kumono kutilo papulo lwachalo ngafira twala ile filayo kwa mbemiri mutwaya mba twali kitashani twalitungirira umwacha wanda chanda bere ashi idikankali chinechi ubuteko government, the civil service is run by the engine called Cabinet Office. And at the helm of that engine is the Secretary to the Cabinet. This is the senior most job in the civil service. Now you can imagine if someone to just become a head teacher of a school, a head teacher, before even an HOD, head of department, needs more than 5 years of experience to become an administrator. Others even stay for more than 20 years before they can be considered for such responsibilities. HOD same, and the government is structured in lower management, mid management, up to upper management. You've got assistant directors before one becomes a director. You require competence apart from necessary qualification requisites. You need proper experience. It's not a minor undertaking to run government machinery. So to try and reduce running of government to an aspect of saying anyone can join government and within 5 years someone can be at the helm of government machinery is a joke. And apologize to the people, 2 people I'm going to call upon who are still alive. Mr. Leslie Mbula, former senior civil servant who also occupied this office of Secretary to the Cabinet. And Dr. Simon Meet, former Secretary to the Cabinet and Private Secretary at State House. And I'm sure Mr. Kanganja, Dr. Kanganja is still with us. We call upon you to advise the head of state, the president. You are still alive and let the nation benefit from you. You know what it takes to run government machinery. Please advise wisely. Use your wisdom. Ndelomba bafyasha aba chilipo aba bomba po emilimo yabu kalemba mukalamba wa buteko Valeze Mbola eponchili na ba Dr. Simon Miti abo ndipo shuwa sana ebeni bakateka pandeko bakateka mano palichi tetubule fe muntu wanyingire buli amushiku ewetire sesane po echo guteko bule firo ko mbemilimo ya ndoroka bantunga mwantimurolishe. Most of our competent civil servants today are sitting at home getting paid because they've been sidelined. You can see, those of us who have been in government, those of us who have worked in government, you can see the lapses in functions of government. They are very clear for everyone to see. Now you want to even dilute the topmost job. How can you think like that? That's what, these are the proposals in this. But I'm calling upon these 2 distinguished former public servants, Dr. Simon Meet and Mr. Leslie Mbola. Advise wisely on this one. And you should have been the authority to speak to this matter. Because everybody who has been speaking to this matter I've been speaking from lack of knowledge. You know what it takes to run government machinery. You can't reduce it to that kind of pettiness. Twamulomba. Mona uleko film yubuteko na ifo tulefo kwisa kusanga bwino bwino. Pantu civil service engine, it must outlive the cycles of political leadership. We shall continue talking, and those who would want to find out clarifications from us, we are available as a public servant to respond to your questions, either by phone or in other means. We cannot help them in doing the right thing. To allow them to know abantu bakwalesa nga tafina nalangiro kutilo lupakulo lufirero kwata abantu kubika ponshi amapalo national satashani apala.
Thank you very much. As we come to the close of this particular interaction, I want to just state, if this bill is not contentious, because this is the most contested bill in the history of constitution making in Zambia, but to the UPND, that is non-contentious. So you can only imagine what to be content in what they may term as a contentious one. So Zambians be warned. This is phase one. It is phase one because they said we will deal with non-contentious clauses, meaning a time will come when, in their view, they'll be dealing with contentious clauses. And at that time, it will be full-time dictatorship. So please be warned. On the issue of the Secretary to Cabinet, those that have worked in the civil service actually understand why we have problems today. We have problems today because most of the civil servants with experience have been packed away. In the civil service, the assistant directors have got postgraduate experience of between 5 to 10 years, in fact, of over 10 years. The directors are those with experience of about 15 years. Now, how do you want to reduce the experience by the civil servant number 1 to 5 years when his juniors need 15 years to get to the position of director? So clearly, President Hakainde Hichilema, we don't play with constitution making like that. You don't start with a name in mind, a friend in mind, and then you rush to Parliament to amend the constitution to accommodate friends to these senior positions. It's very shameful. Please abandon this route. You will not go to amend the constitution to accommodate a friend who is ill-qualified or a friend who is not qualified, and is not qualified because he has not served enough time within government. Please know that the civil service is structured. People earn these positions on account of time that they serve. So Zambians, please resist these amendments. That is our appeal. We'll continue to speak to you tomorrow so that you remain aware of what is happening in your parliament. Thank you very much.